All right. Oops, says go right. Local recordings. All right, all right. Looks like we are live. Looks like we are live. Hello, everybody. It's JJ Conway. I'm so excited to be with you here today. I'm not quite sure why my camera is angled. Let's see if we can fix that a little bit. It's going to drive me crazy a little bit. I was at dinner the other day with some folks and I didn't realize I had done it. Okay. I didn't realize I had done it, but my meal was a shrimp meal and I had broken off the tail and took the meat out of each piece of the tail of the shrimp, and I had lined them all up along the edge of my plate, and I didn't even notice it. And somebody in the dinner party was like, "Look at that! That's some OCD right there. That's the kind of lady you need managing your money." And I hadn't even realized it because if you could see my office, I am nowhere near that organized. But I'm thankful for having a mind and a heart to help people win with money. I believe that there are some time-tested success principles that we can all use to develop wealth, regardless of where we're starting from, regardless of the education you have or don't have, regardless of the station in life that you have or don't have, regardless of the medical conditions that you're fighting or aren't fighting, regardless of any number of fill-in-the-blank things. I believe there's always a way for us to build wealth. And then I also believe that we will go further faster if we go together. And that's why my tagline is building wealth together. I want to welcome you to Fireside Chat. Now I'm going to tell you, if you don't ask a whole lot of questions, it's probably going to be a short Fireside Chat. And if you're listening to me as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, we do take these live Thursday broadcasts and we extract them for the Wednesday podcast. So if you're hearing me on the podcast, I encourage you to get on the broadcast. And to do that, you will want to join me either on YouTube or Facebook every Thursday night. 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. Now, I do say every Thursday. We currently don't have programming for the fifth Thursday, so sometimes that's kind of a wild card. Sometimes I will teach. Usually I will teach, but sometimes, you know what? Sometimes I use that Thursday to reconnect with my family. But every first Thursday is Fireside Chat, like today, where we answer your money questions with style and grace. Every second Thursday is our seven-figure business building, where we walk you through ways to create multiple streams of income, whether you are overwhelmed by entrepreneurship or you are excited about the thought of creating your own business. These simple strategies are going to help you win with money. Every third Thursday, we go back to our roots and we cover real estate investing, because that's what Building Wealth Together started off as, was real estate investing group out of Kingstown, Keller Williams, Kingstown, and Alexandria, Virginia. And I'll always cherish those days where we started our little real estate investment group in their training room. And that's every third Thursday. And then every fourth Thursday is our Empowered Entrepreneur, where we look at ways to help you do, be, and have more by becoming the kind of person that does, has, and becomes more. Wait, I don't think I've practiced that one very well. But the reality is, a lot of us wish that we had a better life. But unfortunately, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to get what you've been getting. And Albert Einstein, one of my favorite quotes, y'all have heard me say this one quite a bit, said that you can't solve today's problems with the same level of thinking that brought them, that created them. So we have to do something new to move forward. And so the difference between the person who comes to the vision board session and comes to the free workshop and says, I want to change my life, I want to change my family's financial tree, and the person that actually does it, is that the person who actually does it develops themselves into the kind of person that has what it is they say they want to have. And that's what we do every fourth Thursday with our Empowered Entrepreneur, which I am very, very excited about, because these are the same things that helped take me and helped me develop into my first six figures in my business, which is now, was my side business, and is now, these last 3 years, my full-time business. All right. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get to the questions today. Before I start answering questions, I do want to let you know, if you have a question, hopefully I have a pop-up banner here that I can just put it up for you. If you have a question, you can oh yeah, let me edit that real quick. Just hang tight for a second, y'all. Hang tight. If you're on free conference call, I do apologize. We're gonna have a little bit of dead air here for a second. All right, let's see what happens when I show that. It's okay. It's a little big, but it's all right. Okay, so if you have a question for me, tonight, here's how you get on the screen. I am doing something different this year. I'm allowing people to come on screen and come on camera and ask their questions live if that's something you're interested in doing. In exchange for sharing your financial questions with a million of your favorite internet stranger friends, I'm going to allow you to have a little bit of a shout out for your business or whatever, what have you, after I answer your question. So you're welcome to use the link. I put the StreamYard link for tonight's session in the comments there, in the little blurb there. I'm going to also go ahead and put this as a comment. Let me go ahead and put this as a comment so that you all will be able to see it. Not private chat, comments. All right, I'll put that as a comment in all the channels. Okay, so that way, if you want to come on live, come on live. Now look, don't do like that person did a couple months ago and come on live and start talking about all this Biden inflation and all this other stuff. Because I don't care who's in office. It's not ever just the person who's in office. It's a conglomeration of a whole lot of different things that lead to the country being where it is. And so we're not going to get off. I mean, I'm all about politics as it relates to, and it impacts your money and your ability to build wealth. But we're not gonna talk about broad general issues that are really the result of multiple presidents in succession, right? Like I used to think it was hilarious. I can't find our chart now, but I had this chart that showed all the tax rates of the president, all the presidents, all the way up through President Trump, and it showed that Reagan had some of the highest taxes of any president, and President Obama had some of the lowest taxes of any president. But you always heard it the other way around. You always heard it from a lot of people, because I tended to run in conservative circles. You always heard how amazing President Reagan was and how he did so much good for the nation, and he was giving people back their money and giving people back their life and giving people back their sovereignty, giving the states back their sovereignty. Well, he had the highest tax rates. So I'm like, and then they all dogged on the one, oh, big government spending all the money. And I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm independent. I'm neither Republican nor Democrat. And I feel like I may have to choose a side at some point. But at this point, I'm independent. I have no dog in the fight, but I just observe. And my observation says, y'all, you could take the commentary about one political person, take their name out of it, and literally put the other person's name in, and that's what the other side is saying. So I just always find it funny. Facts are not a thing when it comes to arguing about politics. So we're not gonna argue about politics on my channel, all right? Unless we're having a politic discussion. This tonight is not a politic discussion. This tonight is a wealth building discussion. So let me go ahead and put that banner up. I think I'm gonna make that a ticker, because I'm vain. I like my name being on my channel. So let me just see if that keeps my name there. Let's see. Yeah, that keeps my name there. All right. That keeps my name there, and that keeps my jjclink.com/war. We're launching a new initiative in 2023. I'm going to start allowing you to teach my content. So I'm taking my proprietary content that I use to help people dump debt, build wealth, and prosper. And I am allowing you to buy either the license to facilitate it, where you're basically playing videos of me and you are facilitating discussion, or I'm allowing you to actually license the content in which I give you the script, to my 28 days class, my 28 days to financial freedom boot camp, and allow you to customize it to your audience and present the content as your own. If that is something that you are interested in, you go right now to jjclink.com/war. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get into some of these questions. And again, I have 3 questions. And y'all, I ain't even fooling around today. We're going to be heading out to this funeral this weekend. We've been packing tonight. We're going to be heading out tomorrow. I substitute taught today, and it was supposed to be one thing, and it turned into another. And I know I was the right person in the right place at the right time to minister to those children. But you know what? I'm tired. So we're not going to have a whole lot of hot air talking today. If you got a question, it fires me up. I love answering your questions. So drop them in the chat. But when all the questions are gone, so will I. All right. So, all right. We're going to start off with our first question today. And our first question comes from somebody who wants to know at what point they should start an LLC for their business. So this is an excellent question to start off with today. And again, Let me pause. Again, if you are listening as part of the podcast, we extract the Thursday night classes and we use them for the Building Wealth Together podcast. And if you are hearing this on the podcast, I want to encourage you to come on Thursday nights, every Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and we answer money questions. We have money education, abundance education, and you can get your questions answered. And if you want to join me on camera, you can tonight. If you are watching live, if you want to do a dial-in, we got the free conference call going. All you got to do is do *61 and raise your hand. And then also, if you want to be anonymous, you do not want your name, likeness, or image on my broadcast, podcast, or my YouTube channel, well, in that case, all you got to do is go to Ask JJC. So when we're talking about this question of whether or not you should start an LLC, the first thing that we need to do is we need to identify whether or not this business is making money. And this particular individual, let me just go back to that slide real quick. I mean, that spreadsheet real quick. This particular individual has 2 businesses. Okay. And so I identify with that. I have my Building Wealth Together, my podcast and my speaking engagements and things like that. I have a company in Louisiana called Architects Leadership Institute, right? I got a company in Maryland that has my real estate holdings in Maryland. I've got another one in Louisiana that's my real estate holdings in Louisiana, right? So I understand having these different companies. And when you get started, I'll be honest with you. When you get started, I'm not a real big fan of go spend $500 at XYZ companies or us to form your company, right? I'm not a big fan of that because you don't know yet what's going to stick. And so if you're now, I know the person who asked me this already has a company, all right? But if you have multiple different ideas of what you want to do real estate, you want to write a book, you want to start speaking, you want to do coaching, you want to make what do I have my kids making when we go to the trade shows? They make Epsom salts bath salts. They make bath salts, smell good bath salts, therapeutic bath salts with the essential oils and stuff. So say that was to turn into something that makes more than $20, $30 on a weekend, right? We would start another company for that if it was going to be a thing. But you don't know if it's going to be a thing yet. You know, my oldest son originally was the one who made the bath salts. He used to call them big man bath salts. Now the little one calls them big man bath salts. And but we first did that. And we wanted to go to trade shows and we were getting denied. Why were we getting denied? Because the guy in charge of the trade shows, he already did a brand of manly soaps and salts and other things that are like that. And I was like, oh, so this isn't going to work here because he dominates these trade shows. And this other guy with amazing beard oils and soaps and things dominates those trade shows. And yeah, you can always carve a niche. But I mean, at 10 years old, I'm not trying to work that hard to make him $20. You know what I'm saying? We found another way for him to make money. So you just don't know what's going to work. Some things are not going to work because it's a great idea, but it's the wrong place. Some things are not going to work for you because it's a great idea, but it's the wrong time. Some things are not going to work for you because it's not a great idea. It might be a great idea, but it's not something people will be willing to pay for. And it's not something people can't get without you. So there's this, there's this concept. I'm going to get to the question in a second. There's this concept of Ikigai. And I did not know that this was the concept of Ikigai. Y'all, I felt like I was so amazing because I just knew I came up on something good. I have been teaching the concept of Ikigai for years. I call it highest and best use based off of real estate, right? So when you buy a property, you always look to make it into its highest and best use. What's its most profitable, most useful, most contributive status, right? So I made that same thing for us. What are you good at? What are you passionate about? Because sometimes that's not the same thing. What do you get paid for? What will the world be willing to pay you for, right? You know, you got stuff that you're good at, but maybe nobody's willing to pay for it. Nobody was willing to pay me for military single moms. And you might have stuff that you're passionate about. I was passionate about youth, but at the time when I tried to make money working with youth, I wasn't any good. I irritated so many of their parents, they never brought them back to my classes, right? So then the other thing that you need is something that the world needs. And back in before 9/11, I had this Airport Walkers of America, and it was a great idea, y'all. In fact, it was so great that it's 20 years later and somebody's making an app to do something very similar. I'm actually surprised nobody did it by now, because I thought they had, but I guess it's all each individual airport. But basically, it outlined all the airports where you could put your baggage in a thing, and you used to have full size travel things. You could go walking around on your layovers. That's how I kept healthy. We used to travel all the time for the missions, and I didn't put on any weight. Why? Because we would build walking time and freshening up time into our travel, and we would chart out who had the healthiest places, and we would always eat bad on the way back, but we would always chart out who had the healthiest places. And so I was like, man, I like this chart. The internet was a brand new thing. Let me get this out there for other people. Great idea, right? It was a great idea until 9/11 changed. And then what happened? You couldn't bring full size stuff on anymore. You couldn't put anything in lockers. They got rid of all the lockers in the airports. Some of you listening to me are like, what is she talking about? What lockers in the airport? Washing up in the airport? Yeah, you used to be able to do a lot in the airport that you can't do anymore. And so we have to we have to be aware of our relevance. I'll never forget the call where I realized I'd been teaching something that somebody else had been studying for years in Germany, and I felt like, oh my goodness, this person is going to think I'm crazy, and they're never going to call me back. And they never did call me back, and they were really awesome. So I'd always hoped they would just kind of overlook that, but I think they thought I was just like full of it, or movie, or one of those people that like, oh, anytime you say something amazing, I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, I did that, right? I think that's I don't know I don't know what you call that, but I think that's what they felt, and they never called back. But they were pretty cool. So if you're listening, hey, give me a shout out. All right. But seriously though, if you're gonna have a business idea, you got to find something that works. And if you don't know what works yet, I don't want you going out and starting an LLC. I don't want you to go out and get an S corp. I mean, everybody talks about all these things. Oh, it's so amazing. I got all these companies, and I got to go this and all of that. But guess what else you're going to have when you have those? You got annual business meeting requirements. You've got annual filing requirements. And depending on the state that you're in, that can be pretty high pricey. My two companies in Maryland, they are $300 a year annual refiling fee. It costs more to annual. Oh, wait, what's the right way? Wait. I don't know. Let me think. Okay. It costs more to annually report for those companies and keep them in good standing than it costs to form them in the first place, right? Now you go to Louisiana, my Louisiana company, $35. $35. I pay the city of Shreveport $50, because I have a business within city of Shreveport, $50. I forget what it was in Virginia. I let that one lapse, the one in Virginia, though, to be honest with you. I let that one lapse, but whatever the one I had in Virginia was a much lower fee than Maryland, and much lower renew fee. And then I had to pay the county of Fairfax $50 a year for a home-based business. I thought that was hilarious, right? But like when you have a formal company, you got all these extra bills you got to pay, right? And you got to make sure that your business idea is actually going to make you money. Okay. So I do believe in the value of protecting yourself from liability with these different structures. And as you grow, those structures are going to be in place not only to protect you, but to solidify the value that you can offer in attracting quality employees and doing business on that higher level. Okay. Being able to implement a high value or a high deductible health savings plan, being able to implement your solo or even simple 401k and all those other things. These are benefits of having a bona fide business. But if you're just starting out and you don't know if anybody's going to buy your bath salts, let's not go and spend $1,000 creating a company. Let's spend $50 getting a table at a trade show, make $500 that weekend, and say, I'm onto something. Do it a couple more times, take that profit, and then form your company. Okay. Now with this person, let me take another look at this. This person with their two companies. Okay, this person with their two companies, they feel that they are wanting to split everything out, and so I can't quite tell, because you might want to come in and refill out the form or add some details, or if you're listening live, you can put it in the chat and I'll catch it in the chat, right in the comments. But I'm getting the sense that this person has all their money coming into their main checking account, um, instead of business accounts, because it sounds like they're saying, I want to start these different businesses and split everything out. So what that implies to me is you've got all of your business money coming into one account. And I'm going to recommend right now, even if you don't have an LLC, even if you don't have an S corp, I'm going to recommend that you separate out the monies. You're going to separate out the business monies from your personal money. And it's going to do a couple things for you. The first thing it's going to do for you is it's going to make it easier for your accounting. When we commingle funds, we put all our business funds in with our personal funds. Sometimes the accounting gets a little squirrely. We open ourselves up for greater error, and that could result in issues with the IRS. That can also result in masking our profit. And that leads me to the second big benefit of splitting everything out. When you split everything out, you begin to see what's profitable. And how you split everything out is going to depend on your own personality and the streams of businesses and the different types. So for example, if you do like me, I speak, I coach, I teach, I I substitute teach. I get a little paycheck for substitute teaching, right? But I have books on Amazon. I have, how else do I make money? I have real estate holdings, right? Well, I'm not going to lump my real estate in with my speaking engagements and stuff. Those are separate accounts. Now, you may be the kind of person that wants to put them all in one company to get started, but I'm going to recommend that you have them in separate accounts. And then once you see how they're doing, then you can evaluate, do you need a separate company to protect you from liability in that? I have already ascertained that not only is it valuable for me to have separate company for real estate, but because of the dollar value of some of those things, and I have deemed it more valuable to take some of those properties and have them in their own LLC, or have a particular LLC for this state and an LLC for that state. And then you may even consider putting your real estate in trust, especially if you don't have a mortgage on it and you live by the debt-free plan and you're not planning on taking any money out of it, right? Once you put stuff into a trust, it does make it more difficult to do a lot of things with. So you want to make sure that you are buy and hold through and through, and you're not planning on taking out loans before you do that. But these are different vehicles, but you don't even know yet which ones are going to work. Because here's what a lot of us do. We put all the money into our checking account. We spend all the money in our checking account. We don't set aside anything for those taxes, those self-employed taxes, right? And then at the end of the year, we're like, oh, what am I going to do? The IRS wants all this money. Well, the IRS wants all this money because you say you made all this money, right? But a lot of times, y'all, when we commingle funds, it's not just the accounting or the IRS or sound business practice that I mentioned earlier. For me, as a behavioral financial planner and behavioral financial coach, one of the big reasons I want you to split everything out is because I don't want you putting things into your business to mask the fact of whether or not you actually have a business. Because here's the thing, the IRS says if you are losing money year after year after year after year, that is not a business. That's a hobby. And so you may not realize that what you are calling a business is actually a hobby, because you went to the trade show and you made $200. But because you put everything in your main account, when you went to the grocery store and you bought the salts for your bath salts, and you went to your essential oil place or you got them through I don't recommend Amazon. I like Young Living oils. I know doTERRA oils are good too. I don't recommend Amazon, but let's just say you starting out and you just doing what you can do to get by, and you go out to Amazon and you order your oils. Well, that Amazon's going on your personal debit card. It's going to your personal, however you do it, and you're not counting the cost in your business. So you come home and you're like, I made $200. But what you don't realize, because you have it all commingled, you don't realize you actually lost $100. And I used to see this a lot when I would consult with churches for their fundraising. I used to see this a lot. Everybody would be so excited about, oh, we raised $1,000, but you spent $2,000 to raise $1,000. At the end of the day, it would have been better for everybody to just pull the money out of their pocket and throw it at the fundraiser. Ooh, y'all, speaking of fundraisers, ooh, let me do a plug. I don't know if this is going to get to the podcast folks in time. I don't know if this is going to get to the podcast folks in time in order for them to participate in the fundraiser. I'll admit it may not. Okay. Oops, wrong one. Whoops, I meant to edit that one. But we are actually doing a fundraiser. This is a new fundraiser for me, and I think it's hilarious that I'm doing this fundraiser. All right, let's take that one down. That's cool. I can do two now. All right, go StreamYard. I think this is hilarious. I'm doing this fundraiser. Okay, so we're doing this fundraiser. There is no Krispy Kreme within like 2 hours of here, or I would probably buy 50 dozens, and my hips don't need 50 dozens. My brain, my neurological health does not need 50 dozens of donuts, right? But if you are interested in participating in our fundraiser, let me just do a shameless plug real quick, jjclist.com/donuts. Let me drop that in the comments. Look, get you a digital dozen. You can redeem it at any Krispy Kreme. And then you'll be supporting my church outreach efforts. We're rebuilding. We relocated to Stephenville, Texas, and we are outreaching with our students, and we buy them meals with our Bible studies, and we also host the gospel tailgates. And I really want to start taking more of these youth. We've taken a few, but I really want to take more of these youth with me when I travel to different missions trips or different Church of the Living God events. So your funds will help us with that, and the donors are going to put a smile on your face, so it's a win-win. All right, but going back to what made me think of this donuts fundraiser, the I've helped many churches that get excited. They're like, oh, we sold $1,000 worth of candy bars, but at the end of the day, all you profited was $200. Or worse, you sold $1,000 of calendars. Y'all remember those calendars? Does anybody remember? This isn't one, but they were about this size, and they look like a checkbook size, and they were like a 2-year calendar. Does anybody remember that? Does anybody remember paying? You paid $1,000 for those, and you sold them for $2 each, and then because most of them didn't sell, you only made like $500, and so you ended up trying to figure out what to do with the rest of them. You almost couldn't even give those things away, right? And so it's the same principle in business. A lot of times we think we're doing something in business and we're not. And I'm the queen of that. Like, I'm so optimistic about what I'm doing, and I just know the money will come because I live in an abundance mindset, and I may not have it in my hand right now, but I know it's coming. Right? But the thing is, if we don't parse it out, not only do we not know if we're actually profitable, but we could be at risk for reporting the wrong thing to the IRS. So I'm going to recommend that whether or not you get the LLC or S corp or incorporate, whatever it is that you're thinking you want to do, I'm going to recommend that at the very least you split out all your accounts, and then you track what you're doing. And then you sit down with a CPA. Now, I'm a financial planner, but taxes make my head hurt. So I have a great CPA if you are interested, and she's absolutely amazing and patient. Anybody got to be patient to work with me for 17 years now, right? But she's amazing, right? And so you hire somebody like a Vericoya, the wealth building CPA, and they will gonkulate out your options. Which one of these things is the most advantageous for what you want to do? And I remember years ago when I went into her office, because she does a planning session for you, and then like an annual review. And so you can come different times throughout the year and get guidance on which way your business is going, and from a tax perspective. And she was like, you want to do all these things. How about you go make some money first? My little heart was hurt, but I tell you what, that advice served me well, y'all. And so how you parse it out is really going to depend on your personal tolerance and your personal makeup. So, for example, me, I like to have everything set out. I fund different things with different money. So my YouTube and my book money from Amazon, my YouTube and Amazon money, that's one account. My speaker engagements, that's another account. Okay. The coaching and all that stuff, that's another account, because I want to see what's profitable, and I want to understand the profit and loss, and I separate them out. But when it comes to the businesses, all of my real estate is a couple LLCs, but they're only real estate. okay, in a trust, and they're all real estate, right? And then I have my speaking and coaching. Those have two separate businesses. Why would that be two separate businesses? Well, because I do those activities in two different states right now. Okay. And so when you do different activities in person in different states, you got to have, you have what's called nexus in that state. So you set up an entity to make sure that you are paying them taxes that they deserve and all that stuff. So you got to cover all that stuff, right? So that's for me though. If you don't want something to be that complicated, you sit down with the CPA and you say, okay, what's the easiest way for me to do this right and stay out of jail? And they will tell you what their options are. I'm just a little bit on I'm very much a free spirit when it comes to spending, but I also know, how do I want to say this? Because I don't want to sit down and have to think too hard about, okay, this was from this and this was from this and this was from that. It's just easier for me to, when the money comes in, when the Stripe payment comes in, it goes here. And when this comes in, it goes there. And I don't have to think about it, right? So I guess that does sound kind of free spiritish as well. Like, I just want to minimize the complexity of my life, right? And so what you have to do is you have to find the level of complexity that works for you. But at a very minimum, put your business money in one account, put your personal money in a different account. Okay. Analyze the data and and if you're really not sure, you really want to, this person with two businesses, take the money from one business, one account, run your expenses through that account, and they will be able to see this business is carrying itself, this business isn't. I've got one LLC for real estate, and the properties in that area, they do not carry themselves very well because they were vestiges from when the market crashed, and I had bought at the height of the market, and they still never recovered, right? Then I have other properties in another LLC that their money offsets, right? And so sometimes what you do is you can change things around, but you have to analyze it. So you have to sit down and analyze it. And so when I sit down and analyze it and they say, okay, well, let's put this all together, then we can have the losses from one offset the losses for other, and we cover it with an umbrella thing. But if you don't ever sit down and analyze it, you don't even know that that's needed. You don't even know if that's needed. And sometimes we're doing a whole lot of effort and a whole lot of machinations and spending a whole lot of money making somebody else rich because they're telling us we need to do this stuff, and then we didn't even need to do it. But you don't know if you need to do it unless you do the analysis. I hope I've made that point clear. My Lord, I was on one question for 30 minutes. Well, that's one podcast episode. So there you go. All right. If you're listening to this as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, I want to encourage you to join us Thursday nights. We are live every Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. And well, let me take that back. We are not live every Thursday night. We are live first, second, third, and fourth Thursdays. And the fifth Thursdays is often pre-recorded because we don't have a topic for fifth Thursdays. So I usually take that time to be with my husband. But if you have a question, now's a great time to ask it. You can drop it in the chat, or you can put it in the form at Ask JJC. Or if you are on the free conference call, you can, let me just scroll down. If you're on free conference call, you can raise your hand by doing *6 and 1. And I'm looking at the free conference call right now, and I don't see any hands raised from the attendees. All right. And I'm looking at the ask your money questions, so I don't see anything new in there. If you have something, go ahead and drop it in, or you can just drop it in the chat. Now, today, I even have the ability for you to come on screen with me if you want to come and ask your question and have everybody see you. Maybe you got a nice banner in the background that advertises your business. What a win-win. You get to advertise your business to my audience, and I get your smiling face on my YouTube channel. Oh, I love the win-win-win. It's a win for me, a win for you, and a win for whoever hears the discussion. All right. Next question that I have, and we'll probably use this to start off or to discuss on another podcast. Next question that I have is about transitioning. Oh, I love this. Okay. So the next question that I have is about transitioning from your day job to a full-time consultant gig. Okay. So let me, I just realized if I'm going to extract that from the podcast, let me just say that in a different way. Y'all forgive me. I'm sorry. I'm still getting used to this. So what we used to do is I would open up the podcast, and then I would record me talking about the podcast, and then I would splice in this conversation. But anyway, all right, what we're going to talk about today to start off is we're going to talk about transitioning from a job where you do consulting on the side to a full-time entrepreneur doing consulting. Okay. And so this particular individual would like to they do some music work on the side. They do some arranging and some composing on the side. And what they want to do is they want to transition. So instead of teaching, they will do that composing and arranging full time. Now, I just came back. Some of y'all saw my lives and we used them for the podcast. So if you're a regular subscriber, Building Wealth Together podcast, which I encourage you to be, you can you have heard the TMEA, Texas Music Educator Association conference broadcasts that we did live from there. We had so much fun answering questions. Well, one of our TMEA outreach guests asked this question. This is what they want to do. And so here's my recommendations for if you have a business, you have a side hustle that you're really passionate about. It really gets you going. It gets you out of bed. You when you're doing it, you lose track of time. This is how you know this is what you're meant to do. When you're doing it, you lose track of time, and it's something you're so good at that people pay you to do it, even though you love it so much, you would do it for free if you had to, right? And so if that's something that you have built a business around and people are legit paying you to do it, you might think to yourself, hey, I don't want to keep working for the man. I want to get myself and work for myself. I want to transition into a consulting gig where I am now doing that full time and crafting my business and my life around my family priorities. Like, that's one of the things that I love about this business. And I keep getting offers to apply for government jobs, right? And because I did a lot in government, and I downplay it, like when I go on my walks, I'm like, yeah, I'm just a mom out for a walk, right? But I did a lot of things. I did a few things here and there, and it's always fun when somebody wants me to submit an application, and it's nice. But you know what else is really, really nice? What's nice is not worrying about where I'm going to feed my family and being able to just go play with my kids if I want to. The other day, I had a call to the city of Shreveport that some paperwork had gotten mixed up to keep my Architects Leadership Institute going, and I needed to get it done. I had 2 days to do it, and the second day wasn't going to work for my family. So it was like, okay, I'm just going to take the day and drive 5 hours back to Shreveport and take care of business. And you know what? I had the flexibility and freedom of time, space, money, and energy in order to do that. You know what I really, really like about life? I like having the freedom and flexibility of time, money, energy, and space. I didn't have that when I was beholden to a job because I was $800,000 in debt. And so for me, I love having a way that I can pour into people's lives and get paid to do it. Like Dave Meltzer says, I'm helping a lot of people. I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm making a lot of money. I was not making as much as I was during the pandemic. Let me tell you that. I think almost every coach in business is down this year or last year, but I'm still doing all right. And it gives me the flexibility and freedom to craft the life that I want. It gives me the flexibility and freedom to be there for my husband in a way that I never was before. It gives me, y'all, the flexibility and freedom to show up for myself. How many of us do not show up for ourselves because we are too stressed out and too busy showing up for everybody else? We know that these people are toxic on our job, and we know we wish we could get away, but we just don't have the bandwidth. We don't have the freedom of time. We don't have the freedom of energy. We don't have the freedom of resources. We don't even have the tiniest little bit of flexibility. And sometimes we can feel like we are stuck. We are just chained to the wall in these toxic situations. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you will take one step in the direction of your dreams, how's that song go? If you take one step, God will take two. If you take one step into the direction of your dreams, one step becomes another, becomes another, becomes another. And now it doesn't have to take very long before you are in a situation where you now have flexibility of time and space. It doesn't have to take very long. Y'all, I remember my very first check as a realtor. We were investors, but we really hadn't made anything with investing because we were buying the wrong way. We were buying like everybody else does, and I'll talk about that next week. But we were buying the wrong way. But my first check as a realtor, okay? So a salesperson underneath a broker who I had to pay 50% of my commission to, even despite having to pay 50% of my commission to that guy, and despite having to pay something for the one who did the termites, and having to pay something for the people who did this and that and the other, right? We had all these different things come out of what it would have been the commission, which personally I think they should have just taken out of the settlement funds. But they had all these different things that the broker agreed to was going to come out of the commission. And I was looking at my little check dwindling here and dwindling there. But honey, when that check came in, it was the same amount as my major in the Air Force check for being assigned to the Pentagon, with my base pay, my housing allowance, and my food allowance, and my dependents allowance. That one check from selling one little teeny tiny townhome over by Andrews Air Force Base was more than what I was making. No, it's exactly what I was making. It was exactly what I was making in the Air Force. And let me tell you what happened when I got that check in my hand. I looked at that check and I said, you know what? I don't have to be in the Air Force if I don't want to be. And my first hope for you, if you're listening to me either live or after the fact, or even through the podcast, my very first hope for you is that you will have that kind of flexibility in your life, that you will have flexibility in how you earn a living, and that you don't have to be beholden to a toxic environment, that you don't have to be in some place that's deteriorating your family, that you don't have to be in some place that's wreaking havoc on your health, that you don't have to be in some place that's tearing you down day in and day out, making you doubt yourself because you need the money. I want you to open up other avenues of ways of making money so that you have a choice. And that's the first step that I want people to get to with their side hustles. That one check, it changed my life, because I said to myself, I will do this as long as it's fun. Staying in the Air Force, I will do this as long as it's fun. And when it stops being fun, I know how to make money some other way. And I want that for you. So in the case of somebody who is wanting to transition, you've got a side hustle going. Maybe you're a realtor, maybe you're a real estate investor, maybe you've got your own company, maybe you develop things in the cloud, maybe you fill in the blank, whatever it is. You've coaching, speaking, training, you write books, you hold conferences. There's so many different things that you can do to make money while you are employed elsewhere. In fact, one of the great strategies about starting a stream of income while you're employed is you got a paycheck to help seed fund it. Ooh, I like seed funding. I like it when you have a little something that you can put towards your dream. That's why it's so important to spend less than you make and invest the rest. You invest the rest how? You invest the rest in real estate. You invest the rest in good growth mutual funds. You invest the rest in your future dreams. Now, please don't invest everything in your future dreams if you haven't already invested in mutual funds, 401k, self-directed IRA, or regular IRA, Roth IRA. Okay, please don't, they say you go to the conferences and everybody's rah, 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 bet on yourself. And what they really mean is pay us an exorbitant amount of money on your credit card because we're going to disappear with your money and you're going to be left holding the bag. And we really don't care, because if you really cared and you really wanted to work hard, you would be under so much pressure that you would make the money back. And you didn't. It's not my fault. That is not what I'm trying to say today. I'm not saying take all your money that you should be saving for the future and throw it at your business. I know some people like that. I know you go on Shark Tank and they're like, are you guys going to be all in? And like, yeah, we quit our jobs to be here. And like, yeah. And all the sharks are going, yeah. And I'm like, as a financial planner, I'm like, no. You didn't make, how many sales do you have? 2? No, but we quit our jobs to be here. Yeah, no. I'm not a shark, so what do I know, right? I'll tell you what, I sleep well at night. Sometimes you want to do things differently from everybody else. You want to have more peace. You want to have more joy. You want to have more comfort. You want to have more abundance. Sometimes you got to do things different from everybody else that's miserable and stressed and scared for their lives. The way that everybody else builds business, the way that everybody else builds finance, the way that everybody else buys real estate leads everybody else to be stressed, scared, and operate from a position of scarcity and fear. And I'm trying to help people who want to operate in a position of prosperity and abundance. Oh, I'm getting fired up. All right. Let me answer the question. Okay. So if you know you want to transition from being in a full-time job capacity and you want to make your side hustle or your extra stream of income into a full-time thing. There's a couple of things that I'm going to recommend you do. The very first thing I'm going to recommend you do is really get real about the numbers. What do you need to make? And not just what do you need to make to equal what you take home in your paycheck. You got to remember, if you have a job, generally speaking, depending on what kind of job, whether you're a contractor or a W-2 employee or what have you, generally on your job, you're going to have certain benefits that are being paid out by that job. And so you might have a job that's providing medical benefits. Medical benefits are very expensive to cover when you don't have an employer putting in part of that premium every month. Okay. Maybe you have some school benefits on your job. Maybe you have a clothing allowance on your job. Maybe you have vision and dental, which is usually separate from medical. But maybe you have a plan where it's all one and you didn't realize vision and dental were separate. Some of us didn't realize that vision and dental are separate until our kid knocks out a tooth and we're like, oh, wait a second, you mean it's not covered? Yeah. So you want to look into all those things. Some of these, when you're working for an employer, especially if you're a W-2 employee, they are paying into the Social Security system for you. So if you want to have your own company, you've got to take a look at all the benefits and all the things that company is providing you in your W-2 position, or even some contractors have benefits in their position. And so you want to be able to calculate all of that to inform how much money you need to get out of that side hustle to make sure that side hustle meets your family's needs. Okay. I had somebody that moved from Florida to another state, and they were like, "Ooh, I'm getting an increase in my paycheck." And when they made that move, they were so excited. But I was like, "But wait a second, where you're moving is more expensive." "Oh, no, it's the middle of nowhere, such and such." And they thought it was going to be so much cheaper, but it's not cheaper. When I moved from the DC area to Shreveport, Louisiana, Bossier City, not Shreveport. When I moved to Bossier City, my rent was about the same as what I was paying in Virginia. Now, granted, I was in a townhome in Virginia, but it was a lot bigger and much better soundproofing than the little rinky-dink apartment that I had in North Bossier. Okay, my food budget in Shreveport, Bossier City, Louisiana, was more than my food cost in Northern Virginia. I was shocked, y'all. I was so shocked. I was so excited to move to Louisiana. I was like, I'm going to be closer to my husband, and I'm going to save all this money. And we just had the surprise baby in my 40s, and he was 6 months old when we moved. I was just so excited. I just knew it was going to be a great financial decision for my family. Let me tell you what, my food budget went way up, and that's in Virginia. I got most of my meat, cheese, dairy, and all that stuff from an Amish farmer, y'all. We had an arrangement where sometimes we drive up to the farm and sometimes they'd drive down, and we had a little arrangement where we would get our farm fresh stuff, and it wasn't cheap. They talk about Whole Foods being whole paycheck. Well, this was the whole organic, sustainable everything. And guess what? That cost some money, but we were healthy, and it was our food budget was much lower in Northern Virginia than it was when we moved to Louisiana. So you have to count all the costs. You're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get out of the military and I'm gonna go move home and I'm gonna set up my business, and because I know people love me and they'll support me." Well, people love you and support you, but does the money support? You got to make sure the money supports. Okay. And so that's the very first thing that I would recommend, is really tally up how much do you need to make in this side hustle. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be a 1-for-1 equivalent, right? So like if I'm active duty in the military and I'm pulling in $4,000 a month, and I'm going to go back to my hometown and open up a little boutique, well, maybe I don't need to make $4,000 a month, because even though my house cost might be the same, and even though my food cost might be the same, there's other things I'm not dealing with. I'm not dealing with childcare. I'm not dealing with, stress as much. So I don't have to hire as much therapist or support system people. Like, there may be other costs that decrease, but you want to go in with eyes wide open, right? And so you want to figure out what that is. And then this is my recommendation, that your side hustle in any year-long period preferably 2 or 3 year long periods before you make the jump. Be putting out at least 6 months of whatever expenses you need. Now, the reason I say it like that, instead of just saying for the last 6 months that it's putting it out, because some people have seasonal businesses. So, for example, as a financial planner, and I'm sure many of the fitness trainers that are on here and anybody else that does a lot of business at the beginning of the year, January, February, March, that's about where I make most of my money, right? That's where I get most of my clients and that's where I make most of my money. So if I was going to judge my business based on just the income that came in January and February when everybody's doing the New Year's resolution, and then you got the people that they made the resolution, they broke it in 3 days, and now they've regrouped and recovered, and they're going to give it another try because they can't believe they did that again, right? Like if I based my entire business planning off of just those 2 months, my expectations and my anticipations would be skewed. And that leads me to the next point that somebody needs to understand before they make this transition. But because that's skewed, I'm not going to levy upon somebody that your business has to make, half your paycheck or half your living expenses that every single month. Because I'm going to tell you what, in December, oh y'all, December for a financial planner is like Valentine's Day for people who just started dating. If you have never been single over Valentine's Day or newly dating over Valentine's Day, let me rephrase that. If you are single and newly dating over Valentine's Day, let me give you a heads up. Prepare to be broken up with right before Valentine's Day, and prepare for him to come back around about a week or two later when he says he misses you and he made a mistake. He didn't make no mistake. He just didn't want to have to go all out for Valentine's Day because y'all just started dating. All right, that's my relationship tip from a non-relationship expert for the day. But seriously though, financial planners in December, you would you would laugh at how many clients are like, oh, I can't meet this week. I'm gonna have to cancel this program. I'm gonna have to do this. And then they come back to me in January. Oh, I overspent for Christmas. You knew you were gonna overspend for Christmas. That's why you cut off our contract. You did not want JJ in your ear like, how you gonna have that kind of a Christmas on $50? Right? So anyway, you have to understand the business cycle. Okay, you have to understand your business cycles. And if you come to me for advice and you can't tell me what your business cycle is, then you're not ready to make a transition. Well, how do you know what your business cycle is? You just started in business. Well, you could be in business for a year or two. Although, if you did that during the last 2 or 3 years, again, your numbers and expectations and anticipations would be skewed. So, what could you do? You can find a mentor. You can find a mentor, somebody who is not competing in the same and with you. So maybe they're doing what you do, but they do it in another city. Maybe they're doing what you do, but they reach out to a different demographic. They do what you want to do, but they do it in a different capacity that they would be more willing to mentor you because they're not in competition with you. Right? Like I'm not. That's funny. I learned a lot. There was a financial planner who is really big in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and I learned a lot through him. And I thought he was going to be mad at me because we met at a conference for financial coaches, and I thought he was going to be mad at me because we were competing, and I had just realized I was going to move out this way and bought the zip codes to be in that area. And so we were starting to compete, and he's like, oh, you're the one who's cutting into my business a little bit. I was like, yeah, that's me. And to him, it was like, okay, bring it. And so later on down the line, we developed a relationship, and I was just like, well, hey, what about this? And what about this? And what about that? He's like, here, subscribe to my list and let me show you how to do it. Not subscribe to my list. He's going to try to high pressure sales me, but no kidding. Subscribe to my list and you can use my stuff, and you can market to your list. Now his stuff didn't apply to me as much as I would have liked it to. So I didn't use his stuff, but I got ideas, it generated some ideas. So you want to find somebody who can mentor you. So in finding somebody who can mentor you, what they do is they shorten the learning curve. Now, to complete the answer to this question, I want to quickly go through the difference between a coach and a mentor. Okay. A coach, mentor, and even an advocate. Okay. A coach is going to be somebody that helps you draw the answers out that are already within you. Bringing a coach on your team does a couple of things. One, when you're the one drawing the answers out from you, you're more likely to implement them and follow through. That is part of why coaching is so successful. Another reason that coaching is so successful is that coaching, it improves your ability to see additional options. It opens up your aperture where you might have been focused in one area. Through coaching, the right coach drawing everything out from you begins to open up your aperture, and you begin to see more opportunities. So instead of just being focused on what's right in front of you, you now begin to see more opportunities. That's one of the things that coaching does in our neural pathways. It's an amazing thing. I wish I would have learned that long before I did. Even though when I did, I maximized as much as I could. But in the military, that was such a foreign concept. And I'm gonna tell you something. I wrote the coaching class for Air Force Global Strike Command, 31,000 member command, and we put those leaders through that coaching class. And it was the second greatest class of that entire week of training, because people went into it kicking and screaming like, this is a waste of my time. But by the time they were done coaching, they realized how powerful it was, not only to improve the person being coached ability to do what they need to do, but also to help develop them as a leader. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. So that's a coach. You got, I love coaching. A mentor, on the other hand, a mentor is somebody that's going to shorten your learning curve. So when I bring in a mentor on my team, I am specifically looking for somebody who's been and done what I want to do. They have accomplished what I want to do. They have the skill set to succeed in the manner that I wish to succeed. They have either walked the walk. I'm not just looking for people who've talked the talk. I'm not looking for people who sign me up and you're going to have me in an accountability group with somebody else who doesn't know what they're doing, and we're going to bounce ideas off each other. That's a different process. That's a coaching process. But when I want to get from here to here, and I don't want to have to go through all those bumps in the road, I want you to show me what you did right, what you did wrong, and help me shorten my learning curve so I can get where I need to go faster. Then that's when I bring a mentor onto my team. Okay. The next type of individual you're going to want to bring on your team when you want to make this transaction is what I call an advocate. So some of you might be like, hey, this sounds an awful lot like JJ's win the game training. Yes, it is. You are getting a nice little taste of my win the game training. I don't know when we're going to do it again, because y'all, I'm still in my field study for my doctorate. So it's probably not going to be until summer, right? But we are going to do the training again. It's so powerful to sit down and go through the workshop and realize that you had so many resources right there at your fingertips that you didn't even notice before. They were right there under your nose. And by following a structured process that takes the stress and the fear out of what it is you're trying to do, now you'll be able to flow in the outreach and flow in the energy you need to get these people on your side. Okay. So we talked about the coach. We talked about the mentor. Let's talk about the advocate. The advocate is somebody who opens doors for you. And the advocate is often a mentor, but a mentor, you can hire a mentor in to teach you what you need, or help you understand the pitfalls, or show you what the organizational sacred cows are so you don't blow things up when you first arrive, right? Like, that's what a mentor can do. But what an advocate does is open up the doors. So let's say you want to speak, okay? And one of my favorites, y'all know, I just love my NSA chapter. So I'm gonna give you two examples, okay? I'm gonna give you the example of Dr. Cheryl Wood. I'm gonna give you an example of my NSA North Texas chapter, okay? Because they're two different types of speaking, okay? In both situations, both people or both organizations, Dr. Cheryl Wood's organization and North Texas NSA, Dr. Cheryl focuses on speaking to sell and speaking for impact. Okay. It's a different style of speaking than what you get when you go to National Speaker Association, where they're looking at how you structure your keynotes and how you structure your corporate offerings and how you get paid for the business end of speaking. The speaking isn't just talking. I'm talking to you in this capacity. But professional speaking isn't just stream of consciousness talking. There's planning, there's techniques. Like, I took a class the other day about humor, not humor. It was humor and other things that you insert in your speech. And now when I listen to people, I'm like, oh, That's what they're doing. Like, I didn't even know it was a technique. I thought it was just them talking, right? And so the professional speaking is separate, but both individuals, and I'm mentioning them to you because if you want to be a speaker, I highly encourage you engage with both, right? They're not paying me to say that. They're not giving me no affiliate fee. But I just give honor to whom honor is due. But both of them have the abilities to show you what you need to do. Dr. Cheryl has her Speak for Impact, or in her center stage program. I went through her center stage program. It was phenomenal, phenomenal. All right. And then the North Texas NSA, my chapter of NSA, they have an academy program. This past year, it was a 2-year program. It used to be a 1 year. It went to 2 years because of the pandemic. Now it's going to go back to 1 year. So I got the blessing, y'all. But you're going to get a real good blessing too. But they have an academy program that walks you through, how do you structure this? How do you structure that? How do you do this? It's made a huge difference. So they equipped me. They trained me. Okay. I didn't talk about trainer earlier, but that would be training, right? So they equipped and trained me. Then there was a mentoring piece in both capacities. Leaders, Dr. Cheryl or leaders from North Texas both sat down and mentored me in the different lanes that they mentor in, right? And then both of them became advocates in that, and I had coaching sessions with them also, but both of them became advocates, and then they created stages that they then put their students on. So in Dr. Cheryl's case, SpeakerCon is her platform, and her center stage speakers have the opportunity to speak on her platform. Okay. She is not just training you. She's not just taking your money and saying, here, watch these videos, but she is coaching you. She is mentoring you. And then she is opening doors for you to get on the stage and get exposure through other magazines and the stage and other people that she's connected to. Same thing with North Texas NSA North Texas. They just had their speaker showcase, and they created a stage and opened up a stage for us to have access to. See, a lot of times we're like, how come we're not succeeding? How come that person over there is succeeding when we're twice as good and twice as good looking? We're twice as good as they are, but yet they seem to be getting all the business. They found somebody to open doors. They found somebody to make the phone calls. They found somebody who's willing to make the connections. Now, a mentor might say, you gotta make these kinds of connections and you gotta build these kinds of relationships. The advocate will say, you got to build these kinds of relationships and let me start the ball rolling by making a phone call to just the person you need. Let me start the ball rolling by making a recommendation that this company bring you in. That's the difference. And those are the kinds of things you need to put in place in your side hustle so you can turn a side hustle into a bona fide business. I do hope I'm making sense and that I'm being a blessing to you today. I feel like this is a wonderful, wonderful question. Again, 30 minutes spent answering this question. So I guess that's another podcast episode. All right. All right. Now, if you're listening to me as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, I encourage you to be on Thursday nights, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. And if you're live with me, hey, why don't you have a question in the chat? Come on, give me a question in the chat. You can give me a question in the comments. You can do a question on Ask JJC, or if you're listening on free conference call, you can do *61, and that'll put you in the queue to ask a question. I'm just surveying the questions real quick because if we don't have any questions, we're going to go ahead and go. But please, sir, please, ma'am, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. You got to like it and subscribe. You like the video. If you like this content, like this video so I know that this is the kind of thing you like to do. If you like my channel, subscribe to the channel so we can tell the whole world that, hey, JJ is awesome and got something that's going to help you up level your life, right? But here's the thing. Here's the other thing I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to share. So if you've enjoyed what we've talked about today, I want you to hit that share button, and I want you to share it either on your social media, or you can share it in a text to 2 or 3 friends that like it. I want you to share it, because here's what happens when you share it. When you share it, people like you who may not have otherwise seen this content will be able to get the content and be up leveled in their business. There's a lot of people, especially when we talk about minorities, we talk about women, we talk about marginalized communities. They are not getting this information. And what does the Bible says? The foolish pass on and are punished, but the wise see the trouble brewing and they take action. I have laid out tonight two huge things that cause entrepreneurs to fall into huge trouble financially. And I've equipped you tonight with how to handle it and how to navigate those waters. So help out a friend and help out your friend JJ Conway by subscribing, and sharing our broadcast today. I'm going to do one more check on questions. I see a question come in here. Yes. Okay, I live in a remote area and I'm looking to start networking in the area. I'm not sure where to start with in-person events. Oh, I see the questions coming in. Yeah, I'm about to get all excited again. Look at me get my energy because I love answering questions. Okay, so I resemble this remark because when I moved to Erath County, I went from a place that had 260,000 people, and from there, and before that, it was a million people. I mean, like in DC area, you had a million people on a block, right? And then I moved to Bossier City and Shreveport, and then I moved to Erath County. There's 60,000 people in the whole county. There's like 20,000 in Stephenville. So it can be more difficult when you're remote, okay? But in order to network in the area, the first thing I'm going to recommend is go to everything that you can go to and not necessarily networking events. In fact, if I'll be honest with you, there's not a whole lot of networking events in my new town that I would have been welcome at in the first 2 years that I was here, because it's a small town and people didn't know who I was. I actually found out later that people do know who you are in a small town. They just act like they don't know you because they haven't met you proper yet. But that's a whole nother discussion. But a lot of times if you're in a remote area, then you want to network with people in that area, you got to meet them where they are. So my mistake that I made when I first moved from the DC area to Shreveport, Bossier City, I made the mistake of thinking that my business was going to be as full and robust as it was in Northern Virginia, in Maryland, in DC. In that area of the world, I would create a class on Meetup on wholesaling or some other real estate related topic, and it would sell out like that. We're talking $99, $199, even higher than that. People would buy tickets and they'd never even met me before. And I struggled for about 6 to 8 months in the Arklatex, and finally I met someone who had grown up in Shreveport, moved to DC, and had come back home to take care of her mom. And she began to pour into me and explain to me why I wasn't succeeding in business. And where she was coming from is, around here, people deal with people they know. Either you come from a good family, you come from money, you have some power, some clout, some political power, or you are friends of a friends of a friends. And she said, what you're having happen is everybody comes to your classes. Those who do come to your classes, no one was coming to my paid classes. They're going to my free classes, but on my paid classes. They'll come to the class and they'll get the content, and then they'll go by with somebody that they know, like, and trust. And nobody knows, like, and trust you yet, and it's going to take some time. And so this is going to apply whether it's business or relationships or anything. I had to get involved in the community, and it took me, I'd say, about 2 years in the Shreveport and Bossier City area, mostly Shreveport. That's where my business is, and that's where I got more involved in. But it took me about 2 years to get to a point where things were as profitable as I wanted them to be. They probably would have gotten more profitable faster had I implemented the networking strategies that Dr. Cheryl gave. Oh, that's interesting. I have so many Cheryls in my life. I'm sorry, y'all. I just interrupted myself. Her name was Dr. Cheryl Gary Lewing, and she started a school out there, a STEM school for disadvantaged children, and I'm telling you, she was a powerhouse, and I'm so honored to have met her. But she poured into me, and I was like, "What do you mean? People have to get to know me. I'm offering a good product. They should just buy it." But anyway, so I would go where people are. So if you're trying to network personally, and you're welcome to drop some more, clarification in the chat. But if you're looking to network personally, if you're looking to network businessly, if you're looking to network ministry wise, if you're looking to network in nonprofits and how you want to serve the community, it's important to meet people where they are. Well, you don't know where they are yet. You got to go and try different things, but it's not necessarily a mixer. Now, it could be. Our chamber out here has mixers, and I started going to them. Our chamber out here has ribbon cuttings, and I started going to them. I do what I do at almost every other base that I've been assigned to since social media showed up. I pull out my camera, make a video, highlight the business, and after a while, when I applied to be an ambassador, people knew who I was, and they said, "Oh yeah, she would make a good ambassador. She's already doing the work." Right? So you want to go where they are. So where could you volunteer? Where could you what community groups are meeting, what groups are planning things. So like in Louisiana, you have a lot of crews. They plan the Mardi Gras activities, not Gras, Mardi Gras activities. I was going to say something else. I just realized how that would come out on the thing. But you have a lot of crews. They plan the Mardi Gras activities, and you could be a part of something civic like that. There's, Rotary clubs, and there's, key clubs and different things like that where you can get to know people. One of the ways that I started volunteering when I was in the DC area, I worked with Our Daily Bread and I worked with Virginia Cooperative Extension. They used financial coaches and financial planners to help them when they would help somebody with their bills. You had to sit down with a financial coach or a financial planner as part of the receiving the money, or part of receiving your groceries, or part of receiving your rent. They had to sit down with me, and I had to go through them and give them some solid financial principles before the company would cut the check, or the company would make the payment directly to the landlord. Fill in the blank. So you can do some of that kind of networking as well. Okay. Yes. Thank you for some. Thank you. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna have you look somebody up. Okay. And I usually don't do this, but we're gonna do it today. We're gonna do it today. Um, where is she on here? Kim Williams. Okay. Her name is Kenita Williams. She just left Alaska, but she's going to know a ton of people up there. She has several kids. And I hope she's not going to be mad at me for doing this. She was named Military Spouse of the Year a couple years ago. And I was actually kind of surprised because my experience in the military is, I was not surprised that she would be named it. But the reason I was surprised is because she's an awesome person. And my experience with a lot of military spouses is not is the is not the best. Although I see that David came on, and I gotta say, he absolutely makes the absolute best military spouse other than my husband I've ever seen. Hey, you, I was just talking about y'all the other day. I'm still so thankful how y'all pulled me through after that divorce. Oh my goodness, my goodness. I get by with a little help from my friends. Okay. So let's go back into this. So this is one of those situations. Um, Oh, are they? Are they? Okay, so she's saying that the spouses in Alaska are pretty awesome. Well, I dropped in the chat, minister. We've been ministering together for a long time. She's her ministry and her conferences and things have kind of taken her another direction, but she's still awesome. And so we're not as close as we were at one time, but I mean, she's still amazing, and she'll know some people there. But here's the thing. With any of the with any of trying to launch something, first we have to have the relationship, because I love this empowerwomenveterans.com. I mean, who doesn't love empowerwomenveterans.com? In fact, if you weren't in Alaska, I would ask you to come out to my Juneteenth conference, because we're going to be doing a free military breakfast. We're going to be talking about military issues for people of color. And I mean, I would love to have somebody like you come in and talk about how you help empower women veterans, right? And so, with kids and very little social support, and you're in a remote area and you've got less capital, you're going to have to be more creative in how you do it. That's really easy to say, right? Like, okay, JJ, thanks. That's not really helping me much. But here's the thing. What can you do? What can you do with little children that will empower other veterans? Let me give you an example of something I did. It sounds something really small, right? Let me see if I can pull this up on Facebook. I think we still have a Facebook page. I admit I haven't done this since I retired, so I should probably pull this down. But I keep telling myself I'm going to go back to it. Okay. I keep telling myself I'm going to go back to it. So it is, let's see if I can share this with you all. Oh, this brings back so many memories. Hold on. Oops, what'd I do? Okay, there's StreamYard. Okay. You know what I want to find is the video to it, though. Let me share screen. Share screen. Present. Share screen. And 22 Rocks. Okay. So this is something that I did. You can see my son there. I'm going to see if I can find the video. Can y'all see that? You should be able to see a Facebook page called 22 Rocks. Let me take that comment down. Oh, let me take the donuts down. Yeah, I know. Y'all like, JJ, you don't eat any donuts. I don't eat any donuts. But there's no Krispy Kreme around here. So I just made a paper donation, right? But let's scroll down. And let me see if I can find that video. Oh, come on. It was the cutest video. Okay, so this is totally off the cuff. Okay, this is what happens when you do stuff off the cuff. You don't always have it all well planned out. Let's see. I really dislike the new Facebook. I really dislike the new Facebook business page layout. Like, I just feel like I can't do what I used to could do. Okay. Oh, I don't have it here. Oh, man. Oh, I had a great video with the boys. Oh, I'm sorry. I wasted all that time. Okay. So this is something that I did with my kids. And you say, well, what is this? This is basically rock painting events. Okay. We did rock painting events. We would paint rocks. We put encouraging things on them. And then we would go place them. And for holidays, this is how I started. For holidays, I would have vets either come to my house, and then when we realized that was probably not the safest thing to do, because a lot of veterans are suffering from, PTSD and other issues, and everything's okay until somebody gets triggered, right? And I don't have a degree. Now I know a little bit about your personal background, so I know you'd be better able to handle some of those things than I was. But I didn't have any. I was not equipped. To handle some of those things. So then we started doing it at my space in the mall, but we would go paint rocks. Now, I'm not saying you go paint rocks, but I'm saying maybe this would spur an idea, because this was something that I could do with my kids, right? And so because I could do it with my kids, then it didn't drain on my family time. You see what I'm saying? Like, because I could do it with my kids, man, I sure wish I could find that cute little video for you guys. Let me try. I'm going to try looking on Vimeo real quick. But because I could do this with my kids, it didn't impede family time. It was part of family time. Okay. And over time, it began to track people. Here we go. 22 Rocks Suicide Awareness Campaign. All right, let me stop this share. And I'm going to share this one with you guys. Okay. Stop share. Stop screen. Okay. And let's put this one. Oops. Vimeo, where are you? Wrong Vimeo. There we go. 22 Rocks. Oh, I love these boys. Y'all are going to love this. This is going to be worth the wait, y'all. I promise it's going to be worth the wait. And share link, copy. Make it bigger, please. Make it bigger. Make it bigger. There we go. All right. So let's see if that's showing up. Can you guys see that yet? Nope. You just see me. Whoop. Oh, hold on. Share screen. I'm getting there. Vimeo. Nope. Suicide Awareness Campaign on Vimeo. Okay, there we go. So now you guys just see my boys holding the rock. Okay. All right. Let me play this for you, and let's hope it plays. Let me know if you can't hear the sound, and then I'll do something about it. Hey, y'all, it's JJ Conway. You can find me on the web at jjconway.org. And we are closing out National Suicide Awareness Week, and we are placing the last of our 22 rocks. As you know, the 22 veterans lose their battle to suicide every day. That's an alarming statistic, and we can change that statistic by reaching out. And go through your contacts list, scroll through, reach out. All right, one more time. All right, give me a little grace, y'all. I'm sorry. All right, there we go.
Hey y'all, it's JJ Conway. You can find me on the web at jjconway.org, and we are closing out National Suicide Awareness Week, and we are placing the last of our 22 rocks. As you know, the 22 veterans lose their battle to suicide every day. That's an alarming statistic, and we can change that statistic by reaching out and go through your contacts list, scroll through, reach out, and let someone know you're thinking about them and praying about them. I'm JJ Conway, and I hope you will join me at bit.ly/22rocks, or also you can put into Facebook or other social media, #22rocks. Y'all take care and be blessed.
All right, all right. So again, this is not to say, hey, go do this. This is to say, hey, look for ways to do this. My boys loved painting those rocks. And you know what else? Did you see how cute those kids were? Wait, let me put that back on. Let me put that back on. Did you see how cute those boys were? Hold on. Go back. Go back. Look at how cute these kids are. Talk about uplifting somebody's day.
Today's topic.
No. What?
Today's
How'd that
topic
happen?
is get.
Sorry, y'all. I don't know how I did that. What? No. Okay, that's a really good training though. All right, can y'all see that now? Okay, add to stream. There we go. You see how cute these kids are? Come on, who wouldn't love that, right? They used to really brighten up people's days in ways that I couldn't. Okay, and so you can look when you're in a remote area and you're already in a remote area, right? The downside of being in a remote areas is not as many people. The upside about being in a remote area is that people bond together more, right? So you can form bonds quicker than if you were in a more metropolitan area with a lot more access. Then you add on it the constraints of having 2 young children. Okay, will you find things to do that are not coincidence? You find things to do that work with the children, and you attract other people with children, or you create activities for people who didn't have children. Okay, that work for you with your children. So when I was single and I mean when I was married, but I was stationed at a different base, I ran a singles group, and guess what? Almost everything we did as a singles group, my kids came to. I planned the events. I planned them for other singles. They mixed and mingled, but it was always something that was kid appropriate because I wasn't going to pay for no child care to have a singles event. But I needed friends and I needed to connect with people, and that's one of the things that I did. So let me take another look over here. David's got some good comments about spouses in. Okay. Well, see, I identify with that remark. All right. Used to remind me to know my audience and learn to dance their dance. I love that. I love that. So again, this goes back to finding out where the people you want to network with are, and then find ways to connect with them. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. One of the problems that I've had in any outreach efforts that I've had to veterans, and I was just named last month the new chair of the Erath County Veterans. We provide support to local veterans with financial, educational, medical transport assistance. Okay, different things that people need. They need help getting to their VA appointments because we do live 2 hours from Dallas. And I just recently became the chair of that organization, and a lot of times the very people that I want to help are resistant to the help until we build the relationship with them. So that goes to meeting them where they are. Are there book clubs? And I used to take my son to certain book clubs. There were some book clubs that my son was not appropriate for. So guess what? I just didn't go to those ones. But what about church groups? What about other civic groups? There are ways to network without networking and build that relationship. And then once the relationship is built, the other opportunities should open up for you. Okay, let me see what else we have here. In the house. Nope. Connect with yes. Okay, I love it. All right, there was another question. I hope that answered your question. If not, go ahead and drop some more clarification in the chat, or at least gave you a few ideas, right? Because like we don't know what's going to work for your situation. I just know that it helps to be creative. Let me throw another creative idea that just came out. And I couldn't afford to do this when I first started building wealth together because I was $800,000 in debt. Actually, I think it was like $600 something thousand in debt at that point. So when I first came home from that trip, and my ex had sold the house, and then we had this big divorce, and the dust settles, and I look at all these statements, and I'm like, what on earth did this man do? And I'm trying to put the pieces of my life back together. The ways that I got out of debt, I was already selling Avon and Mary Kay to get my own personal stash, so I amped those up a little bit, and then I did what's called picking, and that's where you buy things at yard sales and consignment shops at a low price. They're underpriced or undervalued, and you resell them. And I used to make a lot from the base thrift store, the air-based thrift store, where you would go in and every Friday they'd have a $2 bag of all the things that didn't sell after 6 weeks. I would snap all those things up with the tags still on them, and then I would come in and sell them for like half or so what the original people tried to sell them for. And I made so much money like that. I think I got out of my first $120,000, because that was the consumer debt part of it, simply through Avon, Mary Kay, and picking, right? But let me give you an example with Mary Kay. Mary Kay was fun while it was fun. When I was in that small, rural-ish, not quite rural, but rural-ish environment where there was nobody else in my church that sold Mary Kay, if I just offered them a good discount, I had so many clients. It was phenomenal. I was moving up the ranks. My sponsor got her Cadillac, the SUV, the pink SUV Cadillac thingy, and I mean, we were making it happen. But then I moved from there to the DC area, and guess what? In my church were two other ladies who had been there before I've been there, and they gonna be there after I leave. So I wasn't able to break into that, and I couldn't control that, right? So you have to learn to be flexible as well. I had to learn to be flexible and not just do the good ride that I had in one area and think that was going to work in another, because it wasn't really a business. See, I hadn't built a business. I had built a stream of income, but I hadn't built a business. I didn't have any downline. I didn't have other people speaking into it. I didn't establish myself as differentiate myself from these other ladies in the church. I didn't try to go out after business that wasn't in the church. Like I didn't do any of the things that you would do to say you were in business. But in my mind, I'm selling stuff. I'm in business. So that's something to think about. That's something to think about. You are so welcome. I am so glad you're here tonight, because I really enjoyed thinking through that question with you. And there's another question back up here. What's the best thing to do with your 401k when you retire before 65 years old? Well, it's going to depend on how far before 65 years old that you retire, because as many of you may know, with an oh, excuse me for a second. Hang on just a second. As many of you may know, with an IRA or 401k, there's certain limits on what you can do. So let me just explain those real first. Let me just do that real quick. Excuse me. Okay. So the concept, okay, let me close out these windows. I got too many windows open because I was showing y'all that video. Goodness. The concept of a 401k or IRAs or any of those kinds of things is to entice people to save for retirement, and to kind of alleviate the burden of both the government or the organization that you're working for in helping you save for government for retirement. Those burdens are slowly eroding and are increasingly less people conscious business environment, capitalist environment. I mean, I'm all a fan of capitalism. It's how I make my money. So I don't want to appear to be knocking capitalism by any stretch of the imagination. At the same time, though, there's a lot of things where, like even my son's new shirt was like, he's like, I can't believe this smell. It just smells so bad. I had literally just had a conversation with other financial coaches about how the new clothing that's being made, it's like more than 50% recycled content, and it smells bad, and it's plastics, and it's causing breakouts in skin and all that stuff. And I'm like, wow, I just had this conversation, So, but if you were in a situation 50 years ago, you wouldn't be allowed to do that, because it's damaging the people's skin and it's causing issues and cancers. And they're having studies that show that people are, I haven't done the research. I haven't done the research. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just saying what's been reported to me is that, state of California did some research. They slap a warning label on some of these things. And state of California put a warning label on everything. So I don't know about how much I can trust that, right? But they put a warning label on it, and there's some studies that are showing that, people go sterile wearing some of these underwears made with this recycled content. So I'm just like, okay, we cannot trust anybody else to have our best interest at heart. Okay. So anyway, let me get back to 401k because I can see myself going down a rabbit trail there. 401ks, IRAs, all those kinds of things. They are basically retirement arrangements that allow you to put money in, and the tax code's going to give you some advantages. 401ks and IRAs are going to have two different types. You're going to have a traditional type and a Roth type. The traditional type, which is when these things were first encouraged. It's interesting. When I took taxes as part of my financial planner curriculum, when they created the 401k and the tax code that's named for, when they created all of that, it was basically because people weren't saving. Ooh, sounds a lot like today, right? People weren't saving, and because the country had pulled through the depression, they wanted to entice people to save and to take care of their future because they were worried about a drain on Social Security in the future, right? Like we still are worried about a drain on Social Security. I mean, I don't think anybody on here believes that Social Security is still going to be there when they need it, right? I hope it is, but I'm not planning for it, right? But so anyway, they wanted to entice Americans to save. So they put together legislation that said, hey, do this and we'll give you a tax break. And then years later, they're like, we need more money in government. We need to figure out how to get some more money without upsetting people by increasing taxes. So then it was Roth and somebody else. I forget which senators came up with this, but one of them was Roth. That's who it was named for. And they came up with this plan. They said, if we promise people that they won't have to pay taxes on their earnings, we can get them to put their retirement investments in pre-tax dollars. Post-tax dollars. So they're going to pay taxes and we promise them they won't have to pay taxes later. And then we'll get a cash infusion now that everybody will feel good about. This is brilliant, right? Is this not brilliant? They're like, we need money. If we raise taxes anymore, because remember, Reagan and them had the highest level of taxes. They had the highest level of taxes. I got to find that picture for you. You can do a Google search. I'm sure somebody can find it and drop it in the chat for me. But they had the highest level of taxes. And so I can't remember if Roth was Reagan at the tail end of Reagan administration, or if he had moved on if he was in Bush or Clinton, but the nation was coming off of these crazy high tax rates, right? And so they're like, we can't raise it any longer. We're already at 80% at the highest tax bracket, right? And so not that the wealthy were paying that, because they know how to use the right loopholes to lower that tax burden, but still, it was a lot, y'all. What they said, this is brilliant. And it worked. I'm telling you, people were so excited about the thought about tax-free money that they stopped doing the 401k where they were, or their traditional IRA where they were getting a tax break, and they started pumping everything into the new Roth where they were going to have to pay taxes this year on your money, but down the line you weren't going to have to pay. And I remember one of my first financial mentors, the one who actually helped me get out of debt the first time, Larry Burkett. I remember him being just adamant about don't trust the Roth. You can't trust the government to not pull the rug out from under your feet later on. They're promising you it's going to be tax-free in the future. I think you should take the taxes advantage now and put your money in the traditional. I remember he was so adamant about that. And he's right about the fact that you can't trust what the government's going to do in the future. COVID. Okay. So because when COVID happened, I don't know if y'all know this, I'm starting to put together something on all the financial reverberations of COVID. There are a lot of things that happened under the surface through this pandemic that we didn't pay attention to because we were busy dealing with the pandemic. There are a lot of legislation and a lot of tax changes. Well, I don't want to say tax changes, but there were tax changes, but there were a lot of other changes in how money moves and how money is taxed and how money is managed in this country and who can do what with what. A lot of these changes flew under the surface because the public was preoccupied with the pandemic. We were worried about our pre-existing conditions. We were worried about the disproportionate impact of COVID on communities of color. We were worried about the fact that people who were at highest risk usually didn't have the ability to protect themselves by taking off of work or socially distancing, right? Like, we were worried about all this stuff. We were also, some people were super worried about the vaccine and it's going to turn us all into zombies, and, fill in the blank with all the things we were worried about. But I'll tell you what we weren't paying attention to. We weren't paying attention to some of these financial policies. So I'm not going to knock what Larry Burkett was saying, but I am going to say a lot of people done made a whole lot of money by investing in the Roth. Okay. So this is like in a little baseline of what this question is asking about. Okay. So you put your money into these retirement accounts. They give you certain advantages. Either you get advantage on your taxes now, or you get an advantage on your taxes later. Okay. But here's the thing, because you're getting an advantage on your taxes, you have some constraints. You cannot pull all your money out just yet. You have to wait until you're 59 and a half. And now when you have a traditional 401k, if you pull your money out too soon, or if you have a traditional IRA, you pull your money out too soon, they're like, we gave you a tax break on that, so I'm going to need you to give me some more taxes back. And we're going to need you to pay a penalty of 10% on top of paying the taxes for that. Okay, so that could be up to a 40% for most people listening to me. That could be like a 40% hit right there. Okay, so we want to be really, really careful with that. On the flip side of that, because our country does not like dynasties. Okay. Now, I know this is going to sound kind of strange, because if you look at some of the financial policies that President Trump implemented, he set the stage for a greater incidence of dynasties. And we also know that there are dynasties in our country. We think about Rockefellers and Carnegie and all them, but a lot of people I've heard, and I haven't done the research on this, I'm just going off of what others have said. Okay. So, a lot of people have said that a lot of these trust funds and all these different things that were established by these greats 100 years ago are getting so whittled down because of so many heirs and descendants that even they might be toppling. But I don't know how true that is, because you know what? If you're a Kennedy, a Rockefeller, or a Carnegie, you still have a whole lot of pull. So that aside, this nation, when they formed the financial structure of the nation, one of the things that they did not want to have happen was dynasties, where you amass all this wealth and you just keep sucking up all the wealth and all the wealth and all the wealth, and nobody else can get any wealth. Okay. I know it seems strange, because our capitalist culture, you would think that everybody's all out for themselves to get all the wealth they can get, but our government purposely taxes and limits the transfer of wealth to the next generation, so as to prevent the kind of dynasties that would rise up and take over the country. Now, you could still, what is it now? 11 point something million dollars. It used to be 5, and then Trump increased it to 11 million. You can still transfer a fair amount of wealth, right? You can transfer a fair amount of wealth. You can give your kids and grandkids and great grandkids a nice leg up without being taxed by the IRS, without having to face a gift tax or an estate tax. All right. But you're not passing hundreds of millions. Although there are some really slick things that I learned how to do at George Mason for financial planning, that there's some really slick things you can do. So even though we have rules that say you can't pass on that kind of money, you can. You just got to know what you're doing. You got to have the right financial planners and the right legal documents, and you can. We can talk about that some other time. All right. But the structure of it, they don't want you to build up your 401k, get all this tax advantage, and then pass it on to your heirs, and then they get all that tax advantage and grow it even bigger, and pass it on to their heirs and get all that tax advantage and grow it even bigger. They don't want to set up another vehicle for dynasties, and quite frankly, they want their money. I mean, that's really what it's all about. So not only do you have to wait to take the money, right? But you have to start taking the money. You have to start taking the money at a certain age. And I think it is 72. Is it like 6 months after you get to 71? It's some kind of weird, wonky thing. I think it's moved up to 72 or 73. So when I took my exam, it was like you had to do it by the 6 months after you turned this or that. It was wonky because it would be 71 or 72 depending on how you calculated the 6 month thing. But anyway, I think it's been raised up to 72 or 73, whatever it is. Okay, let's just call it 73. You have to start taking the money out. And not only do you have to start taking the money out, but you can't just take $1 a month. You got to take a certain percentage out so that the whittles down the money. Because again, this government, they want their money. Uncle Sam, he wants to get paid. He gonna get paid on the front end and the back end and all around. And even if we think we got one up over on Uncle Sam, he gonna find a way to get paid. All right. So with that foundation, what's the best thing to do with your 401k when you retire before 65 years old? Okay. Yeah, David, thank you for that. I do think it got moved up though. I think it was moved up or it's going to be moved up for 23. If you could do me a favor and look that up for me real quick, I would love that because I would love to give people a good answer, like a real good answer. Okay. And yes, there are there's just so much going on. It's the whole financial structure. There's do I still have it? I hadn't read it because I read one of his other books and it was so riddled with shall we say racially biased anachronisms. Let's just say some of Larry Burkett's predictive and fiction writing books did not age well. Okay. When he even though he was my mentor and he helped me get out of debt, a lot of his writing back then was to a certain audience. And okay, so he's posting that up there. Okay, there we go. All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. So got the IRS link right there. Okay. So I haven't read The Coming Economic Earthquake, but he was warning for a long time that you had all of these different factors that were going to cause a lot of implosion in the financial system. And even though I haven't read the book that puts them all together, I'm starting to see a lot of the things that he used to talk about. This was when I first came in contact with him. I never met him in person. I only met him through the phone and through the radio, and the internet was just brand new. So it wasn't really internet, it was more phone, right? The internet was brand new. I'm so old. I like to think I'm younger than I look, right? I mean, I look younger than I am. Yeah, I didn't come out right. Never mind. Anyway, I'm getting tired. But a lot of the things that he used to warn about verbally, I'm seeing it come to pass. Okay. All right. So what's the best thing to do? Well, guess what? Nobody likes this answer, but I'm going to give it as an A depends. Okay. So if you have a 401k, let me find that question again. Let me find that question and put it back up. If you have a 401k and you retire before 65 years old, if you're before 59 and a half, I'm going to recommend that you don't touch that money. Now, there is an instance where you can pull some money out and not have to have taxes and not have to have, well, you will still have a penalty, but you won't have to pay the 30% or whatever your tax bracket is of taxes. And that is on a Roth IRA, you can pull out the money you put in tax-free because you already paid the taxes on that money. But you can't pull out the earnings tax-free until you hit that 59 and a half. So if you at all points can wait till you get to the 59 and a half, then I wouldn't want you to take that. Now, the next thing about retiring at 65 is the next thing that you want to think about is Social Security. And I know that a lot of us, we think that Social Security is not going to be around. And you know what? Honestly, I'm not so sure it's going to be around when I'm ready to take it either, right? But you can start taking Social Security as early as 62, okay? You want to play that carefully. If you don't need the money or if you are otherwise very healthy, you might want to wait on taking Social Security because the longer you wait to start taking Social Security benefits, the more you get. Okay. But of course, that requires a trust that the fund will still be funding and the money will still be flowing, right? But if you are nearing retirement age and you've got issues, you've got health issues, you've got other issues, I'm a big fan is waiting as long as you can, but I'm also a big fan of have a decent quality of life. Don't eat dog food for 2 years, waiting so you can get more Social Security later. Eat some good nutritious food now. Take your distributions now and enjoy life to the fullest now. Okay, you earned that Social Security. That's not a handout. People sometimes look down on government money because they feel like, well, we don't want to be a drain on the system. We don't want to be welfare mamas. We don't want to be this. We don't want to be that. But let me tell you something about Social Security. You paid into it. It's your money. Those earnings are yours. You earned them. They took that money out of your paycheck. If you're a W-2 employee, and your employer actually did what they were supposed to do. They took that money out of your paycheck every month to feed into that system. Get your money. Get ego out of the way of not getting what you came for. Okay? Get your money. All right. So if you retire before 65, if it's before 59 and a half, I'm going to recommend that you wait at least till that long. But then what you do with that 401k is going to be up to you. If you need the money, take it. If you don't need the money and you want to push it to 72, push it to 72. Let it grow some more. But here's the thing. Whatever you do, make sure that you're doing it with intention. Okay. I'm not just going to go into a frenzy or into reactive mode, and I'm not just going to go pull the money out, and I'm not just going to go stress out and feel like, oh my goodness, I got to take this money. I've got this issue and that issue, and I need to do this and I need to do that. And so I'm just going to go grab it all. I'm just throw this money at something. Do it with intention. On the flip side, don't walk in so much fear, like, oh my goodness, if I take more than $1 every month, I'm going to be broke in 2 years. Okay. If you have a small 401k, then it's not going to last as long. Okay, that's fine. But maybe you can be intentional and strategic about what's in there. So it's really going to depend on the money. Now, if you want to make sure that whatever's in your 401k, and hold on a second, I want to make sure that I don't tell you the wrong thing. Okay. Let me make sure the RMD amounts, because there is an RMD amount, and I know that's another one of those things that's changing. Yeah, okay. So the RMD amounts range from 3.6% up to 6.8%. So how come that came up in the age? No, see, look, the Secure Act, which passed in December 22 increased the age from 72 to 73. Okay, so if you are turning 72 in 2023. Okay. You know what? Let's just go with the IRS. Never mind. Strike what I just said. I'll read that IRS link that David posted later, and we'll make sure that we're well informed. See, this is why I don't do taxes, because it changes every year, y'all. Okay. But seriously though, the required minimum distribution for your 401k is anywhere from 3.8% up to 6.6 or something, or 3.6 up to 6.8. Okay. Rule of thumb for financial planning is 4% a year that you pull out. You'll always have the body. So if I have $100,000 in my 401k, I can pull out $4,000 a year, and that $100,000 will be there when I die in perpetuity that can go to my heirs. Okay. Now, most of us probably need more than $4,000 a year to live. Although I will say, when I did the analysis on our house, I think with our lifestyle, if we didn't have my bougie tastes, okay, if I didn't want the Sherpa super warm hoodie, because they're all wearing shorts out there at 67 degrees in the house, and I like to be snugly, cozy, warm. If I was okay with the Walmart $5 special, y'all should have seen. I don't know if he's watching. He's gonna laugh at me, I'm sure. Y'all should have seen my husband's face when I was like, "Hey, I just bought a $200 hoodie set. I got it on sale for $50." And he was like, "I put this thing on, y'all. I tried to go back and buy more. They were sold out." I'm like, you know what? Every year they come out, I'm buying all the colors. This is the warmest thing I've ever had. Okay. Anyway, if I didn't have such bougie tastes about certain things, because I'm not a brand conscious person, but when something works, I will pay for it. We could really live on about $800 a month, right? We could live on about $800 a month. There's no mortgage on this house. until the housing rates get over $250,000, until our house value gets over $250,000, we don't have to pay property tax, which in Texas is a big bear, right? I'm going to have to start advocating and making sure that our seniors get their exemption lifted as the property values increase, because these are not big houses. They're not hood houses, but these aren't big houses. These are starter homes. These are 3-bedroom. This one's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Yeah, I know, 1 bath with 3. We're gonna add on another bathroom soon. We were debating moving, so we haven't pulled the trigger yet on what we want to do, whether we want to move or we just add on, because we kind of like the house. It got great sound for podcasting. And it weathers storms really well. But we could now. I wouldn't be eating bison steak on Sundays. I probably wouldn't be going and shopping at Nagwa's boutique whenever I go back to DC, or Northern Maryland. I probably wouldn't be. I don't know. I probably wouldn't be spending $6 at Tea to Go. No, I would find a way. I would find a way for Tea to Go. I love that. Oh my goodness, I love that tea. Okay. I don't know. I'm beginning to think it's like a Stephenville housewife rite of passage. Like you become addicted to the tea place. Because I resisted, but they sucked me in. It's like the Borg. And now I've got my tea. Got to get my tea, y'all. All right. No, seriously though, I don't believe that you should let anything have power over you. So I use that in a joking way. I don't mean to offend or trigger anybody who suffers with addiction. Okay. So anyway, but we could $800, $900 a month, especially once the teenager's not here to eat, because food is a little extra. So $12,000, let's call it $1,000 a month, $12,000. We'd be all right. We wouldn't be high on a hog, but we'd be all right. This is why you pay off your stuff. And this is why you don't have payments in your cars. You save it to buy your car, and you save it to buy this, and you pay down your house, and you invest, you invest. So I'm okay. But a lot of us, we freak out because we didn't do that investing, and we look at ourselves and we're like, well, we need at least $100,000 a year to live. Well, if you need $100,000 a year to live, you need 10 million in the bank to throw that off at 4%. No, you need 40 million. 4 million. Wait. Oh boy, I just messed myself up. Okay, anyway, the rule of thumb is 4%. Okay, so if I had $1 million in the bank, that'd be $40,000. Okay, I could pull out $40,000. If I had $500,000 in the bank, not in the bank, investments. I don't know why I keep saying in the bank. Please don't put $400,000 in the bank. Please don't put $1 million in the bank. Don't put $500,000 in the bank. You could legally put $250,000 into the bank. I mean, if they're FDIC insured and something goes wrong, you should get that $250,000 back. But please don't put $250,000 in the bank. Okay? Can I just fix that up real quick? But let's say you had $500,000 invested in your 401k, and it's in a good one. Not one that eats you alive with fees or things like that. It's in a good one. Well, you could reasonably take $20,000 out a year, and you could live in perpetuity. And when you passed away, your heirs would get that $500,000. And if you structure your life now for the next 20 years to get your house paid off, to get some investments going, to build up your 401k, you can accomplish in 10 to 20 years, you can accomplish everything you need to be financially secure. The world would make you feel like you can't do that. You don't have enough time, and it's too expensive, and it's too hard. But that is not true. Ask all the people who've done it. Okay. But if you could do that, then you could do that. But let's say you've got $10,000. Let's say you have $100,000 in the investments. That's $4,000 a year. Let's say you've got $10,000 in your 401k. That's $400 a year. You can't really do much with $400 a year. Although if you shop well, you can take a cruise every year, and you could let that be your cruise money. Or you can take that money and throw it towards an investment or something that's going to make you more money. Okay. But whatever you do, make sure you're doing it with intention. Okay. Don't do things in fear.
where you're worried either A, that you're going to outlive your money, or you're in fear that, or B, you're afraid that, somebody's going to come in and take it all, right? Do it with intention. If you follow sound principles, financial principles, you're not going to outlive your money. Now, if you've got $100,000 invested, but you're going to pull out $40,000 a year, well, yeah, you're going to outlive your money. Hopefully, I really hope you do. So then what do? Well, then you make sure you are intentional with that $40,000 so that it's going towards something that's going to throw off more money after the fact. So maybe you live in a place like, like where I've got family in certain parts of North Carolina. You can still get houses for $40,000 and $50,000 that are not hood houses. They're not falling apart and it's like you can see through the house through the slats, right? Like I have a property in Baltimore, and catty corner from that was where the riots were. So you can stand on that doorstep and you can look catty corner from my house, and you can see through where the windows were all the way through the roof was, because those properties still don't have a roof. Well, they might now. It's been about 3 or 4 years since I visited, but I mean, I've had that property for 7 years now, and for a long time you just, it's just what it is. Nobody's going to buy that. No one's going to fix it. Right. And so hopefully by now someone has, but I mean, like you can get a house that isn't, that is what I'm trying to say. When people talk about a $5,000 house in Baltimore City, I'm like, I got a $3,000 house in Baltimore City, but it was kind of a fluke. And that's the kind of deals you look for. So when you tell me about a $5,000, $3,000 house in Baltimore City, I know you're about to give me one of those that looks like it was in the riots. So, anyway, you want to be intentional about what you're doing. You could buy a $40,000-$50,000 property, and maybe that's throwing off $400, $500, $600 of rent, right? You can save that up and buy something else, or you can stack properties, or you can buy one that's worth 40 right now, but you put some oomph into it and you flip it and make it worth 80, and then you take the 80 and you buy another property and you flip, rinse and repeat. There's all different kinds of ways to do it. I just want to encourage people to do things with intentionality. Now, one last thing before I close out. Two last things before I close out a 401k discussion. The strategy property that I was talking about buying one house a year or buying a house every other year, I got that from John Schwab, Building Wealth One House at a Time. Okay. Yeah. Good book. I encourage everybody to read it, because it takes the fear. It takes the fear out of real estate investing. And it also takes the FOMO out, the fear of missing out. Like all these people like, I got 65 doors. Oh, I control $2 million worth of real estate. Well, do you control $2 million worth of real estate, or do you own $2 million worth of real estate? Because if you don't actually own it, it's not yours. Now, I would hope that many of you don't own much, right? Because as we grow in our real estate prowess, we buy things, but we don't buy them in our name, right? But I don't want you to have $2 million worth of debt. Okay. So last thing on 401ks, and this applies to 401ks, 529, not 520s. Actually, this applies to anything. Okay. Insurance, if you have beneficiaries on all of these kinds of money accounts, you can establish a beneficiary. So if you pass away, somebody else gets that money. Okay. So in our case, me and my husband, the way our stuff is all set up is that each other gets each other's stuff, and then our kids get it, if we're both incapacitated, right? At the same time, if we both pass away at the same time, then our kids get it. Well, I want you to make sure that you review your paperwork. If you do nothing else from what I'm talking about today, I want you to look at your insurance paperwork, your 401k paperwork, your investment accounts, your brokerage account paperwork, all that stuff. I want you to make sure that you have beneficiaries set up on all those things. And if it gives you the ability, set up a contingency beneficiary. What is a contingency beneficiary? A contingency beneficiary is what happens if you and your beneficiary all pass away at the same time or within a short amount of time of each other. So, for example, my husband is first, then my boys, then if all of us are
let's say we all pass away in a car crash. I hope the Lord would not allow any of these negative things to happen. And I know we don't like to talk about this, but you know what? I'm about to go to a funeral. We're going to leave town and go to Mississippi for a funeral this weekend. We're going to leave town tomorrow. And I've been dealing with a lot of funerals over the last couple of months. A lot of people passing away, a lot of family members passing away, a lot of family friends passing away. And I think it's high time we start talking about this stuff, because you leave your family in a lurch when you haven't made these preparations. Okay. But so I'm not trying to be morbid, and I'm not trying to speak death. Y'all know I'm a big fan of saying speak life, right? But let's just say me, my husband, and the boys were on a cruise ship, and the cruise ship goes down. Okay. I hope I hope it would happen peaceably in our sleep, so we don't feel anything. We just wake up in heaven. Yes, Lord, please let it be done in the name of Jesus. But not any time. I don't even know how to say that. Like, I want to say not anytime soon, but on the other hand, I'm like, come Lord Jesus. Like, I'm like Paul. I'm torn between the two, right? Okay. Anyway, stop being philosophical. Let's get to the question. If all of us were to disappear tomorrow, somebody's getting that money. And I went through my insurance policies and my other policies, and I made sure not all of them allowed me to set up, the different levels of beneficiaries, but the ones that did, I made sure that somebody other than Uncle Sam or lawyer so-and-so was going to get that money. So go, especially with your insurance policies, look up, make sure you have beneficiaries if something happens to you, and make sure if you can, that you have contingency beneficiaries, that if something happens to you and your beneficiaries at the same time, that they can get that money. In fact, I was thinking about doing a Juice with JJ on the fact that an organization lost $1.2 million of my money. That's right. There was an organization that lost $1.2 million of my money. Hold on. Let me take this comment down real quick, and let me say that again. Let me say that again. An organization lost $1.2 million of my money. Who wants to guess how they lost $1.2 million of my money? Well, I'm about to tell you how this organization lost $1.2 million of my money. So here's what happened. And if you're listening to this as part of the podcast, I encourage you to be on the line every Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. We talk about your money, and we talk about different money topics: real estate, crypto, and building a business, building streams of income, and being an empowered entrepreneur. But today I'm answering questions. We're going to put this into the podcast. It's probably going to be a Juice with JJ. But I'll tell you what, I was really saddened in my heart. I'm sure you would be sad too if somebody lost $1.2 million. But they didn't actually lose $1.2 million of money I have in hand. So that's not where the sadness came from. The sadness came from is that for years, a particular organization was my contingency beneficiary for all of my insurance policies. And in fact, for several of them, they were the main beneficiary, because somebody who does financial planning didn't take their own advice and hadn't updated their insurance after having kids. So I said, if you took nothing away from my discussions on Thursday nights, make sure you have beneficiaries and contingency beneficiaries in your insurance plans and your 401ks. But if you have had children or grandchildren or any other kind of life change like marriage or divorce, please go update your insurance paperwork. I am continually shocked at how many things I think I've gotten rid of all of it, but I still turn around and my ex-husband's name is on this or on that. And I'm like, how? I'm sure I did this, because I review my stuff every year, but there's always something that pops up, and it's been 14 years now? My goodness. So what happened was this organization was the primary beneficiary on some of my stuff, was the secondary beneficiary. So your spouse is your primary beneficiary. You have your secondary beneficiary, which for my spouse, now my kids. But when I didn't have kids, that was this organization. And then then you have your contingency beneficiary. So if all of that group is gone, who do you give it to? Well, then you can establish somebody else. And in the ones that it wasn't already primary or secondary, it would be contingency. And I looked at it and I was like, you know what? This is too much money for me to give an organization that isn't even handling money very well anymore. So I went and researched me. I didn't research, but I sat down in prayer and studied. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this money? Because it needs to go somewhere. I'm not giving it to Uncle Sam. I'm not giving it to Lawyer Jane. I'm not giving it to fill the politician's pocket fund. No, it needs to go where I want it to go. And so then I thought about it and I prayed about it, and I listed several individuals who have been faithful and steadfast. And, one or two of them may not have always been the best with money, but they've always been the best of heart. And so I said, okay, they're going to get this money until the Lord speaks to my heart and maybe puts another organization in. But that organization, through poor money management and poor treatment of certain people, they lost the opportunity to possibly pocket $1.2 million should I pass away with my husband and my kids. Now, I'm not saying I want that to happen. Like even when I told my girlfriends, hey, I just made you the beneficiary on this. You might get these documents in the mail and it's not a scam. I was like, I hope you never get this money. Like really, I kind of hope you don't get it. Like I really, if the Lord comes back, I hope we're all caught up. And if the Lord doesn't come back, I hope I live a long, fruitful life. But anyway, make sure you check all of those things. Okay. All right, y'all, this has been so much fun. This has just been so much fun. And I'm going to be honest. I told my husband, I said, we're packing for this trip. This is a real heavy funeral. We've had so many losses. I don't know that I have the bandwidth or the energy or the drive to actually deliver good content today. And I actually was thinking about canceling tonight's class because I was like, sometimes we have to know our limits. And he gave me this look and I was like, well, I do like answering questions. Let me just start off with the two that I've got and we'll see where the conversation takes us from there. And I want you to know that you have uplifted and encouraged me. And even just, I know it seems like a small thing asking your questions online, but what you've done is for a couple of hours. And again, some of you may be listening to this on the podcast. We broadcast these live on Thursdays, so they go much longer than the podcast, and then we extract them for you to hear. But what you've done for 2 hours is you've taken my mind off of some stuff that's been really heavy, and you've helped me put it in a space that I love and that energizes me. And that's helping you win with money. So from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of my life. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. And thank you for building wealth together with me. I'm JJ Conway. That's all I've got for you today. Y'all take care and be blessed.